So this is a later video than usual, but I'm off for a couple days, so why not, right? Just want to come briefly. I know we've been doing the series of cognitive distortions, but I want to talk about just some buzzwords, and I've been seeing it now for the past few years, like really heavy, and it's in regards to personality disorders. Um, just using the definition of ignorance, the real true definition. I think a lot of it is people just don't know. So, you see, like I said, the buzzwords, and somebody will say on a TikTok video, yeah, if they do this, they do that, then, oh, they are definitely borderline personality disorder. If they do this, they do that, yeah, that's more of that avoidant personality. If they do this or they do that, then, yep, narcissistic. That's, yep, okay. So I was like, you know what? I just want to provide some sound psychoeducation regarding personality disorders because they are so misunderstood. Okay. And it's going to be really brief. And here and there, I'm going to come back and maybe talk about specific personality disorders. But what a lot of people don't know is that they are actually split into three separate categories. That is cluster A, cluster B, and cluster C. Now, in cluster A, this is where we're talking about an individual that you may see in these personality disorders more of possible psychotic or psychosis. You can see them in other, personality disorders or diagnoses, but in that cluster A, you're talking about maybe schizoaffective, the more of the schizophrenia type, paranoid. So in a nutshell, they basically have this view and thinking pattern that includes this lack of trust for others, the suspicion of others that can prove to be quite dangerous to them and those that they interact with, right? Additionally, in cluster B, this is what people typically are talking about when they use these buzzwords of various personality disorders. This is where you see borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. And so in these types of disorders, what you're seeing is that overly dramatic, emotional thinking, all of these types of behaviors that can be present within that diagnosis, okay? That cluster C, this is when someone may have more of an increase in the anxiety and as far as their thinking patterns. Um, Here we may find that dependency personality. You may know someone that you're like, man, they're so dependent on everyone else. Why they like that? Why they so needy? We'll create these words for and labels for people, and more times than not, most people suffer from personality disorders. Okay, so where do they come from? And I'm not going to do it specifically. I'm just going to give you, like I said, a brief overview. They come from, it can be genetic, okay? These traits can be passed down from parents, right? Environmental factors, okay? So they may have developed this trait just due to their environment in which they were brought up in. Additionally, childhood trauma for some of those disorders. Okay. And we always said, a lot of these things develop when childhood trauma is left unresolved, right? So one may learn how to survive and be in that survivor mode. Well, a part of that may also be some traits, or they may in fact meet all criteria to be diagnosed with a personality disorder. Or it could be an individual that suffered some later trauma in life, and the way they found to survive going forward was that protective part. Well, the protective part may have served well for a short period of time, but before you know it, now it's gone into this trait um, where personality disorder may be more prevalent in it. Okay. So it's all about how we interact with others, right? That view of self, Some people are left feeling empty. Some people feel that, they are going to be abandoned, and that's why they respond through these traits of a personality disorder. It's so, like I said, it's so stigmatized. Like people will be like, oh my gosh, they have a personality disorder. Oh, they are borderline. They are dependent personality. Oh, they are narcissistic. And people just don't understand the full picture, in that these individuals are, in fact, really suffering. Because while the behaviors that are exhibited can be quite manipulative, they're typically not done with any malice behind them. Just a different way to look at it. For those of you that haven't been here, but those of you that have, you already know that I do work a lot with those who have serious mental illness. I work with a lot of individuals that do have personality disorders, or where I have found, wow, this is what you've been suffering from all these years. And I'll definitely make that diagnosis, right? Um, but I just want people to kind of be aware of just what they're really going through. It's not just somebody choosing to be that way, right? It's always something more than what meets the eyes, what I like to tell people. People can look like, oh, they're just being a jerk, or how do they even be in a relationship? They're flying off the handle. They're doing all of these things. Their behaviors are so risky and impulsive, and they're still suffering, right? So it's like dialectical thinking, both things can be true at the same damn time. So I look forward to talking about these topics in the near future. Y'all probably go um, through each cluster. Like I said, there's three different clusters and categories, A, B, and C. So I look forward to talking to y'all about it soon. I appreciate all of you for stopping by, but just a different perspective to have when it comes to personality disorders. Give yourself space and grace, and just keep in mind, we all ain't gonna know everything. We're study evolving. We're doing life for the first time. Be gentle, be kind to yourselves. See you soon.